episode of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. You're joining myself, Chris, and my co-host. Oh, he's gone. He's not there. One of them seems to be missing, but below the logo, for audio listeners, below our logo, is the man of many pixels joining me once again this week for episode 43. Richie himself. Give us a wave, Richie.
Hopefully I don't have as many pixels as I did in the Orcs Must Die stream.
Oh, we'll be addressing that. Don't you worry. Yes, so elephant in the room. Mr. Tom is missing. We've mentioned it the last couple of weeks, but he is in the middle of a move, so we knew this was going to happen. There's some days where he's not got the keys to the house, he's locked himself in, something like that. We don't know, but he's unable to get out for this week's episode, so he'll be back with us shortly. Don't you worry about it. He's not gone anywhere. But what that means, Richie, is you've got yourself and myself to run through the craziest week we've possibly had. The craziest week we've had. Let's get the biggest story out of the way nice and early. We've both had our haircut.
Yes.
Yes. We are looking...
We finally did it.
Yes, we did. After all the weeks. I'd love to know, actually, the last episode where we actually had short hair. It will have been a good while back now.
Probably February.
Yeah, in the 30s or something, maybe, episode 30 odd. But yes, if you're new to the show, don't forget to like the video and give us a subscribe to the channel down below. It really does help with our own metrics, understanding what you like to see and what you like us to talk about on the show. But more importantly, though, it helps us grow. So thank you to everyone who's tuned in so far. This is our weekly Stadia podcast where we discuss gaming and all the Stadia news from the week and world of all the fun and energy that we love to see. And as I mentioned at the top there, it's been a very interesting week. Aside from the excitement of our haircuts, it's been a very busy week for not only Stadia, but gaming as a whole. As the last week we covered both the Ubisoft Forward event, and we also covered the Google Stadia Connect event, which we'll be drilling down and breaking down for you, our lovely, beautiful audience out there listening throughout the week. First things first, though, we also did a few Let's Plays that dropped, as per usual. This isn't just a news channel. We also like to do some games, and we like to play with our community out there. This past week, myself and my lovely co-host Richie jumped into the wonderfully announced Orcs Must Die 3.
You say I jumped in. I had some absolutely horrendous internet issues going on during that day. And you may tell if you go back and watch the stream that one, I'm incredibly pixelated and pretty pissed off.
I mean, you are the man of many pixels, but it's not often we get to call you the man of being pissed off.
And if anyone follows me on Twitter, you may know what the outcome was. I spent literally 2 evenings trying to figure out network settings and what was going on, to the point where I actually moved my new PC downstairs so I could plug it in the router. Just about getting set up, I noticed one of the aerials in the back of the wireless card was loose. I could have killed myself. Yeah,
so for those who joined in and checked it out, thank you for stopping by. We had an absolute blast playing what we did of Orcs Must Die 3. Of course, it was announced at the Connect. We'll get into that. It's one of your free games for this month. Stealth dropped. It's available now, which we kind of knew leading into it because it leaked out in a trailer for the game. For what we did play, though, I had an absolute blast with it. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. Simple to pick up, easy to get used to, and we just jumped in and had loads and loads of fun.
I have actually since jumped in offline and played. I was intending to play for like maybe an hour or two, just get a feel of the game when I'm not fighting against internet problems. And I ended up playing for about 6-7 hours.
Wow, so it really got its hooks in you then?
Yeah, it really did.
Definitely. So how do you feel about playing some more this Thursday then, Richie?
Yep.
With better internet connection?
Yep, I'm in.
Excellent. So look out for that this upcoming Thursday on the Sounds of Stadia channel. We'll be doing another stream for that. We already have the overlays and the logos already, so we might as well use it to its full extent. Obviously taking place from our Assassin's Creed Odyssey stream, which did wrap up the week beforehand. Also, Saturday morning cartoon time with myself. I've been playing through Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom. Part 3 is available now over on our channel. Go check that out because this week was an absolute bitch of a section of the game to get through. My word, I thought, and I've discussed it with a few people in the community over on the Facebook pages. Obviously, do remember that we are partnered with the Google Stadia UK Facebook group as well. Just head over and search for Google Stadia UK and you'll find that. Some amazing people on there, really being really helpful with things like connection issues, which Richie was having, discussing the best Wi-Fi routers. I know Tom's been in the chat this week as well, recommending the best solution for a mesh network in your home to help Stadia run at its absolute finest. However, everyone agrees with me. Monster Boy, a lot harder than it makes out. I thought it was just going to be a nice little walk in the park platform game. It is not. I must have died on that boss fight a good 20 plus times. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do I get pissed off?
To the retro route where games are incredibly difficult.
Very, very much so. So you'll have to tune in and check that out to see if I get just as pissed off as Richie was about his internet not working the other day by heading over to the channel or click on the videos and have a look at it. But part 4 will be out this Saturday. Kind of get into some more stride and more rhythm. Do I unlock another character? You'll have to tune in to find out. But Richie, as I mentioned, top of the show, this week we had 2 massive flagpole events, big key events for the summer, not only for Stadia, but also Ubisoft. It's their first digital event as well. You can go check out our live reactions with Tom included over on our channel. But I think we need to address one of the key things first of all. As part of the retcon ritual, we need to address how bad our predictions have been for these things. I'm going to hold my hand up now. I'm all about getting hyped and excited for things. I apologise to any listeners out there who I may have drawn into the excitement. Richie, I apologise to you if I draw you in as well with my crazy predictions of AAA titles and such.
We were clearly overly ambitious. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
If we do a count of how many things we predicted correctly across both streams, across all 3 of us, we got 1.5.
1.5 points. 1.5 points.
Tom got, what was it, Far Cry, right?
Far Cry 6, yeah. Yeah, he did, yeah.
And I kind of got the YouTube integration with Click to Play, but it's not, I don't think it's proper YouTube integration. It's just a link that you can click.
Yeah, which doesn't even work as easy as it should.
I think during the Connect, I did say there's a point to me, but in reflection, I think no, I don't deserve it.
Yeah, so for a quick reminder for you watching or listening out there, my personal predictions for myself was in my AAA category, I went with Skyrim. Because I just thought they had a great relationship with Bethesda. For the AAA, I thought we would see EA's final game, which I put my flag in the ground on The Sims. We saw nada, nothing. I also said the Activision relationship would start to see some fruits of its labour in the form of the Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy. Nope, that is also not going.
Activision were dipping the toes in the Stadia, though. We can cover that.
We can cover that in a short while, yeah. In my indie category, I went for Plague Tale Innocence after it successfully having 1 million plus sales announced last week. Ubisoft would be bringing the Valiant Hearts sequel. Outer Wilds, one of the previous Game of the Years. And for my feature category, I said we would see some news around Stadia 2.0. We saw none of that shit. I might as well have just sat there and done 0 predictions and I would have ended up with 0 points. But you know what? That's the fun of it all.
For me, Stadia 2.0 is something that people in the community have just dreamed up out of nowhere. I don't think we'll ever hear about anything properly called Stadia 2.0.
Oh, I don't think it's ever going to get a title.
I think the way Stadia will work is they'll just incrementally increase.
Yeah, I mean that's
and they might not even market it at all.
Yeah, I mean that's what I would see as Stadia 2.0. I think just giving it a name for us to discuss it makes it simpler for talking in terms of the terms. But yeah, do you want to give us a rundown of your predictions, Richie? What you went for?
I went, bear in mind, I didn't actually do any prep for these predictions, so I forgot.
Oh, you needn't. It didn't matter in the end.
It didn't matter. I went for my AAA titles, parts of Final Fantasy X and X-2. That Square Enix connection playing strong there in my mind. Again, with the Ubisoft connection, I went with the Ezio collection, which I still think will be awesome to come.
Yeah, definitely.
And Rainbow Six Siege. I was kind of I wanted to think about Uplay, but
yeah.
So I picked 2 games that I think will come with Uplay. My indies, I went with Untitled Goose Game. Although I do think that's kind of now past where people would care really, and some parts of older ones in Super Meat Boy and Bastion. And I've already mentioned more YouTube integration in terms of features, which. Yeah, it was not really what I was expecting. I was expecting something click to play when you're watching a video. You could just literally click the video. Yeah. Not have to go into the description. Just click a link.
I saw Bill and Lloyd over on Stadia Cast when they did their breakdown watch along as well, and they said that it's a bit. It's a bit shameful that it's just a link. There's no logo for the game or the game's icon or just something that's a bit more glossy than like a blue underlined HTTP link.
It'd be nice when you mouse over like the YouTube window and you get like the little bar, like the timestamp bar and stuff.
Yeah.
If there was a click to play button there.
Yeah, like a little animation
and you
comes
click
up.
It and you're in.
Yeah, I mean, you could see that. Like, the character of the game pops up and goes like, "Oh, play me now." You know, on like American TV, they always have those little windows pop up in the bottom right quadrant, and it's like the family from like Everybody Loves Raymond or something. It's like, "Oh, come and check us out at 8 p.m. Central Time" or something. Then they disappear off, and it's like, "Oh." Something like that, you could just click and go through. But we'll get into that. We'll get into the details of the Connect. We'll give you a breakdown of Tom's predictions as well, just to show you how wrong he was, just like we were. He had Diablo 4 comes to Stadia. That was one of his big shouts. He had Dark Souls Trilogy, which I know he's clambering for as well. No. He had Final Fantasy... Oh, which one is it? Is it 14, he said on his list?
14,
I hate Roman numerals on the fly.
It's the MMO one.
Yeah, and his indie titles, he had Stardew Valley, Dead Cells, and Hades, and his feature was family sharing as well, which we also didn't hear much about. So...
Yeah, I think that's going to be probably a blog post, to be honest.
I can definitely see that forming some part of it. But either way, so the top of the kind of topic of the show, I suppose, and something that we want to really just break down, discuss this week is the games, what are coming to Stadia, and how the Connect kind of... It probably set a poor benchmark for what people were expecting, but I don't know whether the general public either know or care. Like, I've watched a bit of content around Stadia this past couple of weeks from some content creators that I personally like to watch, like of the wider gaming community, and it just still seems like something people don't really discuss. So this Connect probably doesn't have the impact that we think it does because we're so ingrained in the Stadia community. I think bigger scope wise, it's probably quite insufficient. It won't really make a difference either way.
I'd say that was, for me, the biggest flaw of the Connect was I don't think it actually brings anything to the table to get new people on board.
Mm-hmm. It was more like a update, like a roster update of the titles rather than actually Stadia is still a thing, marketing push. He's the big new thing. It was very much just this is what else is coming.
Yeah, which is kind of nice when you're already invested in the platform, but one of the biggest criticisms with Stadia at the moment, especially in the multiplayer space, is there's not enough people. Yeah,
that's it. So let's break it down and let's start. Would you like to start with Ubisoft, or would you like to start with Google Connect, Stadia Connect?
I think we should start with the super sexy special Stadia story segment, actually.
Oh, you know what? Tom's not here, and I totally forgot. You're right, Richie. You keep me straight on that. See, soon as he's not here, everything goes to shit. We can't even keep our basic segment titles up, right? Let's try that one again, Richie. So, let's get into it.
The super sexy special Stadia story segment, aka
the news. Thank you for that. Yes. Yeah. See.
It sounds even more out of sync when there's only two of us.
Yeah, you can't just like synchronize up so easily. Yes, so the first new segment of the day is we're going to talk about the Stadia Connect and the games that were announced and the features that we got stitched within the games. Right then, so we've got a list, Richie. We've broke it down. I think you kindly added it into the doc. We've got a list of everything.
Yeah.
So we can talk about everything.
Yeah, literally these are the notes that we have in the doc that I was typing up as we were watching it.
Fantastic. So let's just address the elephant in the room off the bat. The community in general. Sorry?
How many elephants in this room today?
There's loads of elephants in the room today. They're all over the place. Yeah. Let's address them, though. The fact that I think, in general, people, ourselves including, were probably expecting a lot more from this Connect. Am I right in thinking that?
Yes. I don't necessarily think it was a lot more. It was different things. Because there's actually quite a lot in the Connect. And as you've been pointing out as well, there was a lot of stuff came before the Connect, like the Ubisoft forward that relates to Stadia as well.
That's very true. So,
right? Yeah, I just think what we got isn't what people were after.
Yeah. So to kick things off, we got Super Bomberman Art Online, which was the first title that got dropped. we did discuss on our after show from the live reactions what our take was on it. Personally, this isn't something that really appeals to me. I think Richie, you mentioned it was something that you would expect to see from like a Nintendo exclusive almost, because the aesthetics of the way it looks and their relationship with Nintendo in the past.
I mean, it's wrong to think that because Bomberman has been on other platforms, but I don't think it's a massive franchise. And again, I think the placement of this was weird to open your showcase with Bomberman.
Yeah, it's a little bit further down the ladder that you would expect. But they did introduce crowd play with it. They said you can introduce your audience members as they're watching along as you're playing, and they can basically add the different layers of bombs and they can jump in the game. I think it was up to 64 players, if I recall.
Yeah, it looks like... Yeah, and wasn't it? Yes, crowd play, so you can get like loads of players in. And so I think that was kind of probably the reason behind it went first, to highlight this feature of Stadia.
Yeah, they never did a specific feature segment. They kind of just sprinkled them in and amongst all the other games. So yeah, Super Bomberman, it's like your battle royale of Super Bomberman games, I guess. It's not something that I'll be personally buying. I'll definitely play it if it comes as a pro game, but it's not one that to start off the Connect. It definitely kind of probably sets expectations a little bit to say that they are leading with that. It
kind of falls in the category of something like an Orcs Must Die free, where it's not a game I'd go on my way to purchase because I've got plenty of other things to go. But I will, if I get it free on Pro, I'll definitely play it. I'll probably have a blast with it.
Super Bomberman Blast, yeah, indeed. That was followed very quickly by a game we knew about thanks to some earlier leaks. We got Dead by Daylight from Konami, which I think you pointed out, Richie, that's a big deal in itself, the fact that we're getting our Konami games.
Super Bomberman's Konami as well.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So we've got 2 Konami games, and with Dead by Daylight, there's some interesting features coming with that.
Yeah, so they kind of off the back of the crowd play with Super Bomberman, they also announced they're going to have crowd choice and crowd play integrated into Dead by Daylight as well. Now, if you've not seen the Dead by Daylight games, they're essentially, you take all the horror villains from movies from a bygone era. You've got Netflix, Stranger Things, Demogorgon and everything in there. Essentially, it's like an asymmetric horror game. So one person is the super villain, creepy, hunt everybody down, and everyone else is just like a random person trying to escape death, essentially. Even though in the trailer it says death is not the end. It's not the answer or something like that. However, with the introduction of crowd choice and crowd play, what this allows them to do is the audience get to vote. They get to vote on which character the enemy is from the look of it. So the way they showcased it was the YouTube chat essentially had like a voting system for picking your villain. And then when it came to making your decisions, there was almost like a speedometer meter going back and forward between, do you want the bad guys to get the advantage or do you want the good guys to have the advantage? And it kind of ebbed and flowed back and forth. That could be really fun if you're watching along and you have your say in what happens next.
I mean, it's a good way for your the chat to basically troll whoever's streaming.
Yeah, if you don't want them to do well, you just hit them with like demigorgons or...
It's going to be interesting to see if it's a choice where we can choose to enable or disable that feature.
So just if you're playing regardless, you could just be spammed.
Yeah, I mean, if you were streaming, you might not want to have it active.
Yeah, I'm sure there's an option to turn it off just to play privately.
I mean, I'd assume so, but we don't know till it comes.
That's true. I'm very intrigued to see how this integrates itself from like a broadcaster. Like, how does Stadia link in with YouTube to have that overlap of the chat? Like, how do you plug in essentially your YouTube video to Stadia to get that cross integration?
I don't know. Yeah, I think you kind of need to have like native streaming, so you can stream directly from Stadia.
Yeah.
But then if you're going to have to do that, then it has to be, in my opinion, a lot more powerful than what currently Microsoft and Sony offer. Because to be honest, they're very bare bones basic. So what will be in that situation? You're basically bypassing something like OBS, which you can use to pretty much customize your stream however you like. And yeah, I think Microsoft, I don't know about Microsoft, to be honest, I don't own the Xbox, but with Sony, I think you get a choice of, if you have a PlayStation camera, of switching that on, and that's about your lot in terms of customization of your stream.
Yeah, that's literally the extent of it, as far as I'm aware. But, so, good news that we're getting some games from Konami. I think as we head into the autumn fall and Halloween time. We're going to probably see a few more horror games drop on Stadia. My guess would be before Christmas comes around. Both smaller titles and I think possibly some bigger titles. We'll see what their relationship's like with other Japanese developers. But great to see Konami. Obviously, that opens up the library of Konami games you would like to think to flesh out this ever-growing Stadia library. Is there any particular Konami games you'd like to see from them, Richie?
I mean, the biggest would be Metal Gear Solid, but that's a pipe dream, to be honest.
You think?
I really do.
Let's not forget we saw Solid Snake make an appearance in the Super Bomberman R trailer.
Yeah, I don't want to get people hyped up.
I know, I'm doing it again. By default, it's too easy.
It's possible, but I think it's highly unlikely and you shouldn't expect it.
Okay, so set your expectations, everybody. Set them very, very low, and then you'll be surprised when anything comes out. If you tell yourself Stadia's getting no new games, and then a new game comes out, happy days. Yeah. But either way, yes, they're coming out in the autumn, fall. I think September for Dead by Daylight was what we've got locked in for that. So yeah, back end of the year, which to be fair, is not even that far away. We were talking just before we went live, Richie, about saying that this is episode 43, which means we are 9 episodes away from doing an entire year's worth of content, which is crazy. Yeah, episode 52 will be here before we know it. Moving on then, we got Elder Scrolls Online Stonethorn DLC expansion. What do you call it on Elder Scrolls? Is it an expansion? Or is it chapter, DLC, story mode, season pass?
I'd say it's an expansion because you're expanding the game. So you're not just dropping something else into what you currently have.
Good point. Does this get you excited? I know you and Tom are our Elder Scrolls experts as such compared to myself. Does this do anything for you, or have you not had enough time to sink into the game yet?
Because, that's basically it. I haven't really had enough time on my hands to really get sucked into Elder Scrolls Online. And I'm not sure if I will, to be honest. It's a very good game, but other games keep coming that I want to play instead. Like Orcs Must Die, Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
At the moment,
But there's nothing to play on Stadia, Richie. So how do you not have the time?
Orcs Must Die.
Exactly, and this is the point. We do have games, and they're coming thick and fast. And before we know it, we'll have a back catalogue of Stadia games that we'll regret ever not playing.
We've got Avengers coming, Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Oh, we'll get into that.
PGA 2.
Yeah, we'll get into all that. Yeah. We got a quick random update for Serious Sam, which I felt wasn't necessary in this particular Connect. We know it's coming. We've seen a trailer for it already. They just showed another cutscene essentially from Serious Sam, and that it's still coming to Stadia.
They're giving it a bit of a hard push because it's an exclusive.
Yeah, I guess so. Obviously, we don't need to. I personally, like I said last week's show, I think I jumped in and played the trilogy a little bit. Didn't really I had fun with it, but nothing to endear me to the brand in particular, and really want another sequel to it. So
yeah. That was kind of my experience when I played on Steam. I jumped in, okay, this is fun, but I'd rather be playing something else. Yeah,
there's not an element to it that really makes me go, oh yes, that's my I don't put it in those higher echelons of other games, and we'll get on to some of the games that really do fall into my wheelhouse, which I am excited for. So we got an update on Serious Sam. Surprised we got the smash indie hit Hello Neighbour was also announced. Coming out September 2020. Also, the Hide and Seek DLC pack is going to be coming out in winter 2020 with crossplay as well. But more so to that, it's going to be free as a pro game as well.
I can't remember actually whether that is both of them are free or the original is free.
I would have thought just the original would have been my guess.
I think so. I'm quickly stalling for time while I look that up.
I think it's just the original. But yeah, Hello Neighbour, so it's essentially a smaller indie game. It's won loads of plaudits for the last year or so. Essentially, you are a child who lives in a neighbourhood, and you've got a creepy neighbour who lives next door, and you've got to sneak into his house to find out what dodgy stuff he's going up to without being caught. So you have to hide in wardrobes, hide in cupboards, sneak in through the kitchen window, and he basically chases you once he finds you. So it generally is, as the DLC's title would allude to, it's just hide and seek with a creepy neighbour.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, there's something about the art style of the actual guy himself which is unsettling.
Yeah.
any chases, yes. So we'll no doubt have a first look at that when it arrives this September on Google Stadia. Next up, we got One Hand Clapping, which was a little indie game coming out. Early access. It's available now. They actually dropped it on the Stadia store in the moment, there and then. Tom's played quite a little bit of it. I've seen him, I think he's tweeted once or twice about it, saying he's really, really enjoying his time with it. Even though it is an early access, I think it was only £2 or something.
Yeah, it's an absolute. It's basically an absolute steal. Like, if you're looking for probably a smaller title, a little indie game just to pass your time, and for the price of it, it's £2.49.
£2.49.
For £2.49, you kind of might as well give it a go.
Yeah, I mean, we both bought NBA 2K20.
Yeah.
Just because it was £2.50. But again, for the price, why not?
Have you bought it yet?
What, One Hand Clapping?
One Hand Clapping?
I haven't bought it yet, no.
Yeah, me either.
But again, it's in early access, so I don't know how I feel about buying a game that's not, especially an indie game. It's not like it's a wider scope game in early access where some features might be restricted. It truly is just the game, but it's in early access, which means there might be a few bugs.
I think sometimes companies now use early access as almost a way of protecting themselves a bit. We're going, well, the game's kind of done, but if we put early access on, we'll get a pass on a lot of things. Yeah.
Certainly. Do you feel like everyone will be talking very differently about Stadia right now if it was still in early access?
Yeah, I generally do.
Yeah. I completely agree as well. I feel like if they'd have said November 19th, 2019 is the launch of early access and the Founders Editions, anyone who buys the Founders Edition, you get in the door early, you get a few promos, and even to this day, it's still in early access, like xCloud has been in for God knows how long, which we'll get onto as well. Like I said, busy week. I think all the criticism that's been thrown at Stadia this past week, it wouldn't be as harsh if it was in early access, because they could just come back out, or the defence would always be, but it's not out yet. It's still in early access, in beta still, so yes, there aren't as many games, yes, there aren't as many titles, yes, all the features aren't out yet because it's not out, quote unquote, yet.
Yeah, you do get that kind of a pass, because if you buy it when something's in early access, the kind of social contract there is you're buying something that isn't finished.
Yeah. It's exactly the same.
But the downside of that is you have a lot less people jumping in, which means that you got less money coming in.
Yeah, it's all about the money. It's all about the money.
Yeah.
Moving on then swiftly, we got a game I had never even heard of or seen anything of. Outriders from Square Enix caught us all off guard. The fact that we didn't recognise it. Surprised, Richie, that we're getting.
Yeah,
Outriders?
well, I'm not surprised that Square are bringing stuff to the platform, because since day one, Square have been pretty friendly with Stadia.
Yeah, I mean, Tomb Raider left, right and centre, right?
Yeah, which is kind of the basis between mine and guessing Tom's as well, Final Fantasy predictions. Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to know a bit more about what the game is, to be honest.
Yeah, it was a very CG-heavy trailer that showcased a little bit of space, a little bit of shooting, a couple of interesting characters, and then it kind of all like wrapped up without showcasing anything of what the game was about. But I have seen people went on, I think back in February, people actually got hands-on at this at an event in America.
Yeah.
And they said it was a combination, or it was very similar lines of Destiny, but without the whole flying around thing as well, with the sparrows.
I think Destiny is becoming quite... It's almost like, the comparison where for anything difficult gets compared to Dark Souls.
Yeah.
I think it becomes a bit of a lazy comparison.
Like a genre, just brackets, you can put it in.
What's the gameplay actually like? Is it this third-person shooter with a few abilities sort of stuff? Similar
Seems
to
to be,
Destiny,
yeah.
Or...
But this is it, when you don't showcase.
I don't know. I don't really pay that much attention to mainly CGI trailers, because I want to see what the game is. Yeah,
it's hard to get a good grasp of what you're expecting if they don't show you anything, and we'll talk about that when we get to like Far Cry and stuff in the Ubisoft lineup. Skimming through them, continuing to go through the breakdown. I know we did a breakdown after the show, but I think now we've had a good couple of days to kind of mull everything over and sit on them and think about their impact these games can have. We can now actually approach them from a more relaxed standpoint.
Take some time.
Yeah, we've had some time to digest. No one likes going out for doing exercise after you've just had a heavy meal. Next up, big hitter, surprise. Tom's very, very excited for this one. We've got Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, which of course was the game of the year for many, many outlets for last year, 2019. So yes, it's an old game, but Tom made a point when we were over on the Eddie's podcast. That's a big get for Stadia. Like, yes, it's an old game, but it's a game of the year. That's a fantastic thing to have on your title list, because even though it came out last year, if you didn't have it,
2019.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago. I mean, look, like we've just mentioned there, Destiny 2 came out a few years ago now, and people are still talking and playing about that. Like, the great thing I've mentioned on the podcast many times, with games now, they're getting to such a point of like both graphic fidelity and expanse, in fact, of how big and how many hours you can put into these games. It doesn't really bother me that a game's old now. I've got out of that mindset that I have to play the newest thing. Like, later down the list, we've got some more games that I'm going to play when they come out on Stadia. I didn't play them first time round. It's almost given me an opportunity to retread opportunities that I missed several years ago. But none of these games on the list I'm looking at thinking, I'm definitely not playing Sekiro because it's an old game. It's going to look like shit. It's not. It's going to look gorgeously stunning and beautiful, just like it did last year. Plus, with 2020, we can pretty much write this year off anyway, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I think you tend to find you go through these periods where there's loads of games that you want to play, so you end up missing a load of them, and then you get quiet periods where you can go back and play things. So this could be one of them games that I'll jump into that when I've got a chance.
Yeah, and that's where
things like Control in my list of things.
Control's so good. Control's so good, and that was a game of the year as well for a lot of outlets too. So hopefully, Remedy. That was one of my predictions, I think, at one point.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shadows Die Twice. Looking forward to it.
There's two things we should mention with this. One, it's developed by From Software, who produced the Dark Souls games, the Demon Souls games, Bloodborne. Not when that's seen Bloodborne on Stadia, it's PlayStation exclusive. But they are a very loved developer by a section of people. I'm personally not fond of their games. They're not for me at all. I just don't find them fun and just incredibly frustrating. Yeah. But the bigger thing is, it's published by Activision.
Exactly. Activision, of course. You may have heard of them. Call of Duty. Yeah, a little company.
Little publisher in the game.
Little indie startup company. But of course, of fame of Call of Duty. They do have the Crash Bandicoot license, which is what many of our predictions were based on, things like this. But again, there's proof that working relationship is there if they're the publisher. So it can only mean good things going forward. There's nothing here, there's no announcements here that we've seen and thought, ooh, it's detrimental to Stadia. There's nothing on this list that is detrimental. It's more the better.
For me, I just hope Activision are smart enough to not look too much into the metadata for Sekiro on Stadia to make decisions regarding something like a Call of Duty.
Yeah. Oh, well, we put... Yeah, see it, yeah. There you go. Well, guys, we tried. We put Sekiro out and barely anybody bought it. So why would we put Call of Duty? It's like... Yeah. Slightly different games.
Yeah, they're not comparable at all.
Yeah, exactly. It's apples to oranges. It really is. Next up, we got a trilogy announcement. Three big AAA titles in their own right, back in their own day as well. We've got Hitman 1 and 2, followed in January by Hitman 3 from IO Interactive. Obviously, not Square, but that relationship with Square Enix is there because IO made the games in relationship with Square Enix, and then last year they got the rights back.
So it was a weird kind of split where Square just kind of went, when they're split from Square, it seems everything very amicable and went, oh yeah, you can take Hitman with you. Yeah,
just take our massive multi-million IP. Yeah, you've earned it. There you go. Enjoy.
I suppose it's Square. I think Square's probably looking at it and going, we don't have any studios who want this work on this title. And the studio we're losing wants to keep it, so let's just sell it to them.
Very, very surprised. I'm sure there was some kind of agreement. Maybe it's not financially, but in terms of maybe like talent or something like that. But either way, we're getting 3 Hitman games. The first one of which is coming free, is a pro game for September. We should probably make a separate list of pro games because slowly but surely we're finding out about our pro games well ahead of time now. Guarantee you loads of people will forget that, and come the end of this month when like everyone's theorising what the August games are, the September games are in August, and they're going to get caught up by surprise and go, oh yeah, we were told about that back in July, and no one remembers.
It'll be us.
It'll be us
talking about it and going, Did we already know about that?
Yeah.
We already knew about that.
No, we really will. It'll be like, what, episode 48 or 49.
Yeah.
You, me, and Tom will be sat there going, guys, so it's the 27th of August. What do you think our games for September will be? And we're like, whoa, I'd like to see X, Y, Z. And however many people in the chat, in the comments, will just be going, they already told us several months back. It's Hitman.
I'll do a quick search for the dot. Oh yeah, we already talked about that.
Yeah, we mentioned that. So this one's for you.
This is something I think Stadia can make use of when they're bringing like trilogies to the platformers. Give the first one free to whet people's appetite.
Yes.
All the way back in the day when I was predicting Doom 2016.
Yeah.
This is what I was predicting. Like, well, you give people Doom 2016 a month or two before Doom Eternal releases to get people interested in Doom Eternal.
Yeah. It makes, again, if you do it, if you can get the timing right, it works fantastically. PlayStation did it with the Uncharted trilogy, and then Uncharted 4 came out, and then they did it again with, I think they tend to do it with sales a lot on games as well, where they put a game massively on sale leading up to another title coming out. The Last of Us Part 1 was back in the top 10 games in the UK bought, purely because the sequel was on the horizon. So yeah, great concept. But more importantly, for my own opinion in the Stadia library, having the whole trilogy there, it just sits really well with me in terms of somebody who was quite particular about how he has his things organised and the order in them. I would hate to just see Hitman 3 and the other two not there. I like having the complete collection.
I'm with you.
It just sits well. It just sits well in my own mind share, in my own library, looking at it, to have them all there.
As well, they have announced that there's going to be new Stadia specific features coming.
They have indeed. I could see that as well, like whether it's crowd play, crowd choice, something integrating into the audience.
They haven't told us what it's going to be, but we know something
coming. But again, in their own right, AAA games, right, coming. We've asked for them, we've wanted them. Here they are. It might not be your cup of tea or coffee, but they're big games. Yeah. I haven't actually played a Hitman game. Well, actually, I lie. I've got the Platinum Trophy for Hitman Go, which is a great game.
I've never played a Hitman game. I've got a Platinum Trophy on one of them.
Yeah, it's because it's like a side caveat of it. But I did play one of my first... you know when you're a child and you don't buy your own games, but your family get you them? One of my print yourself kind of games that came on a disc that just had handwriting on the front was Hitman 2 Blood Money, I want to say. That was my first experience, and I was, I think, too young at the time to even fathom what really I had to do.
I think these games are very different to the old ones.
Yeah.
I think with the Hitman, what's now we're calling Hitman 1,
the reboot
is a reboot.
Yeah.
And I think the focus a bit more on like big sandboxes and procedural generated events and stuff.
But either way, I'm excited to look in. I'm quite keen on Hitman 2 as well, because they had Sean Bean as the Undying was the character. It's like in a meta joke about the fact that he dies in everything he's in. But Sean Bean's always a great villain, so we'll hopefully check that out later on this year. They then went on to announce some new partnerships with other developers. We've got Harmonix, Uppercut Games, and Supermassive Games. In particular for me, Harmonix, we said I think on the show, was the Guitar Hero and Rock Band guys, so something probably to do with like music.
Guitar Hero, I think they worked on some of the very early ones, like I think Guitar Hero 1 and 2.
Then they broke away.
I don't know the story, but at some point they stopped working on that and released the Rock Band, so I'm guessing there's some sort of split there.
Yeah, creative differences. They wanted more buttons. Yeah. That's why, to do Earth, Wind and Fire.
Yeah.
More than just those 5 colours.
And also Amplitude is a big one from them.
Yeah, Amplitude's a great game as well.
I've never played it.
Yeah, Supermassive though in particular made Until Dawn on the PlayStation, which is kind of like a sleeper horror hit. They're currently working on the Dark Pictures anthology, which is like, I think they've announced it, they've already said it's like 8 games that are going to be coming out almost like episodically, like the Telltale games used to. They had Man and Medan, and I think there's a new one that comes out this month, if I'm not mistaken. So that could lean towards either a horror exclusive. They did actually say in the video, the Masters of Horror, which kind of leads me to think that they're going to do a horror game, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that. I don't think we'll see it this Halloween. I think it's probably going to be next year.
It could be an awesome get with like crowd choice.
Yeah, crowd choice on like I don't think they'll be able to get Until Dawn with it being a PlayStation exclusive.
Is it?
Yeah.
Alright.
But again, this depends on if they published it or not, because we know Sony, they've had other games like Detroit Become Human is now available on PC also.
Yeah,
so
sometimes these deals run out.
Yeah, it's not a first party Sony, it's second party. So Until Dawn aren't owned by PlayStation or anything. So there is wiggle room there potentially, but whether it is the Dark Pictures Anthology or a brand new title, I'm very intrigued to see what they bring, what they put on the table for Stadia in particular. But for me, it's just great to see that they're still making new partnerships. I think we've said a few times on the podcast, Stadia really need to go out and make those relationships with second party teams, because they're the guys who fill out your library when you don't have exclusives to fill the gap. We've seen all companies this generation have had it, where when there's a lull in first party games, that's when you flesh out your library with the big ones, which is why I think it's key that Stadia is getting the sports titles, because that's what fills that gap.
We should define a few terms right now. It's something I've thought of before, actually, where sometimes we throw these terms like first party, second party rounds. So first party is games published by the platform holder.
Yeah.
So
owned by Stadia, made by Stadia.
Yeah. Basically, something like Ghost of Tsushima is made and published by Sony.
Yeah.
Second party is a game that isn't published by the platform holder, but tends to be exclusive.
Yeah. So made for Stadia, not made by Stadia.
Yeah, so Until Dawn, if it's not published by Sony, would be...
second party.
Second party, yeah. Third party is basically something like a Bethesda. They publish the game themselves, they push it out everywhere. Yeah,
so Ubisoft as well is a great example. They make games for everyone, but they're doing it on their own volition. They're doing it with their own money, their own studios, their own publishing. All of it's done in-house by a different team.
Until Dawn's a terrible example because I just checked it's published by Sony.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So it's not owned by them, but yeah, you get the gist. You get the gist. But and then obviously everything in between. But it's more importantly great to see that, because this is where you get relationships like the one with Robot Entertainment. So next up on the docket, they showcased Orcs Must Die 3. We knew it was coming for a while, and it came out there and then, in the moment. Boom, go play it now. Nice big reveal. They like to do that. And as we've alluded to at the beginning of the show, we have had an absolute blast playing Orcs Must Die 3, and we're going to be doing it this Thursday as well. So check out our channel, jump in with us. If the crowd play was there, you could even drop in some siege weapons for us to help out with. But big thank you to everyone who did join us this Thursday in the chat, because you were incredibly helpful at like just giving us little tips and tricks of how best to kill those damn orcs. And then they kind of wrapped up the show really, which is where I think a lot of people felt they were missing a few things.
There was one more thing, and that we've missed, and that was Outcasters, which is by Splash Damage. Which
of course.
2020.
That's true. So,
which I found incredibly underwhelming, to be honest.
So we should mention that one. So that's how forgettable it was, in my opinion. So Splash Damage, the second party relationship that they've made an exclusive game. Well, it's not even. It's a timed exclusive for Stadia. Splash Damage, obviously fame of working on Gears of War, Batman Arkham Origins, and a bunch of other titles, gave us what I would deem an indie game. Obviously, very quick turnaround for this game. I joked on, I think, one of the shows we were on, saying that it looked like something that was just in the back library, like back in the wardrobe, and Splash Damage just reached in and said, what can we put on Stadia? This game will do. I have no doubt it's going to be fun, but when they said Splash Damage, the masters of the shooter genre, and then they gave us a little Play-Doh men running around ricocheting bullets off walls in a cartoon environment, wasn't quite the AAA Gears Arkham level I was expecting from them. Hopefully, what do you think? What are your thoughts, Richie?
It was kind of a weird choice. It's like, I do think it's probably one of them games that they've been working on the side, and then Google have come in and go, we were looking for exclusive titles. What can we have? And go, well, you can have this.
Yeah, how much will that cost?
I mean, maybe I'm being a bit harsh, because there's probably a lot of passion and time and effort went into developing this game. But it didn't. If you didn't have the Splash Damage logo on that trailer, I would not have guessed it was Splash Damage.
I don't think anyone would have done. Again, no discredit to the game. We've not played it yet. Yeah. It just doesn't look like the caliber that I was expecting from Splash Damage. Yeah. Bringing them on board. Yeah, it's again, we've had plenty of fun with like Get Packed, Orcs Must Die, like all like what I would class as like the AA lower ones, or like even closer to like a small indie title. But yeah, I don't know. I was expecting not to hear anything from Splash Damage for at least another year or so.
No.
And the fact that, is this the relationship done and dusted then, or is this just the beginning of testing the water?
I'd like to think this is just the beginning of the relationship.
Hopefully.
But one thing, I think the biggest thing we need to remind ourselves as a community, though, is I keep seeing people talk about AAA exclusives coming to Stadia, first party AAAs and stuff. Like, it's 9 months old. Like, they have studios that are working on this stuff, but some of the studios, existed for a couple of months.
Yeah, that's definitely something that people really need to just temper their expectations. I know we've had our big predictions out there and hold our hands up and said, yeah, we've said big things, but what we've not ever expected is a exclusive Stadia game from Stadia Games Entertainment anytime soon. Like, you need to give your head a shake if you honestly think Stadia are going to be putting out a AAA exclusive title any point within the next year or so, because those type of games take a long time to make. Like, you're talking 3 years minimum, I would say. Like, Death Stranding, Kojima, master of his art, great storyteller, been around for years. Took him 3 years to turn around Death Stranding. And that was with an engine that was already handed over and made for him by another studio. Obviously, he already had his team, what he pretty much poached from Konami. Stadia started with nothing. Yes, they've been bringing in big names, but you can't expect it anytime soon. I'm thinking, what we said, 2022, 23 at the earliest.
Yeah.
So
I think maybe next year, like next summer, we might start hearing about things.
Yeah, like a teaser trailer or some concept of what game we're going to be looking at seeing. Definitely, but I just don't get yourself too worked up with it. The great thing with games is they're everywhere. We've said before, Stadia probably isn't going to be your main platform for games for the most part. It's going to be a supplemental platform. I see it as my third party device.
Yeah.
I was going to say device platform.
Yeah, that's how I see it as well. And the other commentary is there's a lot of like smaller indie titles coming to Stadia. It's like, well, yeah, they're literally just quicker to get over.
Yeah. It's easier to port a game that's like less than a gig in file size, purely just from a size concept.
Some of the bigger titles, there's probably more debate internally in these developers and publishers going, well, how much would it actually cost us to get that game over there?
Mm-hmm.
Versus how much we can expect to get back. And Stadia's got a relatively small install base at the moment.
Yeah.
And that's also taking people away from working on new titles.
Yeah, it's a business at the end of the day, and it takes time. But just don't get yourself worked up. There's always games to play. Like me and Richie, we're both playing Ghost of Tsushima this weekend. Guess why? Because I've got a PlayStation 4 and I love games. Guess what? Also, I'm going to be doing. Yeah. Guess what?
After you've listened to this podcast, go play that game.
Yeah, it's amazing. And there's, again, just because I'm a Stadia fan and I have a podcast does not mean I can't go play Pokemon on my Switch. It doesn't mean I can go play Halo on my Xbox. Yeah. Like, do what you want. Do what makes you happy. That's what games are there for. They're for exploring a different world, like living your life through a different means, having fun and enjoying it. If you're not enjoying it, if you're not having fun, go take up swimming or something else.
I've said it before, and I think I'll say it again because I think it's apt. The best place to play games is where you're having the most fun.
100%. I can get with that.
It's that simple.
That is a motto I can get behind. But that brings us to a wrap on kind of the things we did see with the Stadia Connect. Again, no massive AAA titles. I'm sure we would have loved to see them. I would have loved to have seen a date for Jedi Fallen Order and a bunch of other things. But we have to take a step back from the Connect, which I mentioned on a few post shows we did with other content creators, and just assess Stadia as a whole, because as you said, Richie, we're 9 months in, 9 months old. Let's look at the games that are coming to Stadia. So, PlayStation, Xbox, next gen's on the horizon. We know they're going to launch with new games. That's a fact. They're going to come out with exclusives they've been making to launch with a big hitter title. That's great. What's Stadia got for it going? So, in terms of games, off the top of my head, Richie, we've got... I'm going to say Avengers first, because I always forget about Avengers when I do these lists.
Because it's a very forgettable game.
Potentially, but it's also got a very big brand and very big IP behind it, and I do know a lot of people are excited. I know you're not.
Yeah, I'm not, because I think if you take away that branding, you get a mediocre game at best.
We shall see. But in terms of AAA, Square Enix, big title that's on all platforms, you've got Avengers. Followed up with, we know we're getting Jedi Fallen Order this fall, this autumn. Again, might have been an older game, but guess what? It was a lot of people's Game of the Year last year. So just like that, we've got another Game of the Year contender coming over from, again, a big publisher like EA. Speaking of EA, we're also getting the FIFA games, which I do think will come day and date. I know they've not locked it in yet, but if you're going to bring out a sports game, you want to get it in line for the beginning of the season, right? That makes sense. That makes the most sense.
I don't know. I think, to be honest, I think FIFA usually comes out after a couple of weeks into the.
Yeah, it's never like it's never the English season, but
if it's FIFA's a sort of game, and I'm guessing something like Madden is going to be similar, the same, where you're probably going to be playing that game for an entire year.
Yeah, so usually.
I think it's one I could easily wait a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And not be bothered about.
Oh yeah, exactly the same. I mean, we don't even know if the sports, football, soccer seasons are even going to start at the correct time this year. But speaking of that, our American audience, the MLS season starts in January, so it's already all over the place, messed around. But more importantly, though, that's a big AAA title that brings in a lot of the, I would say, probably more casual gamer who only play FIFA. Like, they only get it for FIFA. The great thing with Stadia is you don't need the console this time around.
Yeah, I've said that loads of times, where I think it's a sort of game where if you just buy FIFA and you're looking at the next FIFA and like you don't want to fork out probably £400-600 for a new Xbox or PlayStation, or you can just get Stadia for free and buy the game.
But yeah, why?
There's your marketing summed up.
Yeah, have it on the billboards, on the sides. Yeah. But you mentioned it there as well. We've got Madden coming as well from EA, so we've got Madden 21. We've also got NBA 2K21 coming as well, because we discussed that. We've got the LeBron James version coming out as well. So sports titles are massively important, I think, for a platform to grow and develop, because then you've got your annualized releases. FIFA 21 comes this year, we get FIFA 22 the following year, and onwards and onwards. It's always a guarantee you're going to get a game this time of the year. That's massive. Ubisoft, huge support from Ubisoft, which we know they've been one of Stadia's biggest supporters from day one. I, as a big Ubisoft fan, am thrilled to bits. But again, if we take a step back, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting Assassin's Creed Valhalla, we are getting Watch Dogs Legion, we are getting Gods and Monsters eventually, we are getting the newly announced Far Cry 6, which was also part of Ubisoft's Forward event. That's 4 massive AAA titles which always sell absolute blockbusters all over the place, but you don't need to buy an expensive console or own an expensive console to play them.
Yeah.
That's huge. Add to the mix. Sorry, go ahead.
If Stadia can get all the big third-party games, yeah, you might miss out on things like a Last of Us or Ghost of Tsushima from PlayStation Studios, or like a Halo from Microsoft, but you're going to have plenty of games to play.
Yeah. It's definitely not going to dry up. That's not even including other sports titles like PGA Tour, WWE Battlegrounds, which again, smaller. The Mafia titles are coming over. We know we're getting Hitman 3, which is also coming. And then the biggest one, which does have a bit of a caveat to it, Cyberpunk 2077, which is arguably some people's most anticipated title of the year.
Yeah. Also
coming by the end of the year, we think. But all in all, if we take a step back from the Connect, we take a step back at the Super Bomberman NAS and the PUBG Season 8 and the one-hand clapping early access beta, but actually look at Stadia heading into the next year. So from a year from today, when we compare all the next-gen platforms side by side, take out the exclusives, like you said, Richie, there, Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us, phenomenal games, probably some of my game of the years, if not. Yeah. I still played them, I still enjoyed them, and guess what? I'm still going to play Fallen Order again. I'm probably still going to play FIFA, Watch Dogs on Stadia, Ubisoft, Assassin's Creed on Stadia. You can play where you want to have the most fun, like you said, Richie, but looking at Stadia as a product, there's nothing...
Stadia might be awesome on FIFA.
Yeah, it could be.
You just have people just jump straight into your season if you're playing a season
and just help out.
Mode, and you can just, your audience can jump in. You can have 11 man playing.
11-man team. But honestly, if you just take a step back and side by side, aside from the exclusive, there's not many games coming to Xbox, Switch, and PlayStation that you cannot play on Stadia outside of their first party exclusive, which is never going to happen. You can't play The Last of Us 2 on Xbox, and you probably never will be able to. You can't play Mario on PlayStation, and you probably will never be able to. But all these third-party supplemental titles, all these big AAA games going into Christmas that all the kids and families and people up and down the country and the world are going to be playing, you can play on Stadia, just without having to drop $400-500 on a new box this Christmas.
Which is a big thing for a lot of people.
It's a lot of money, especially those who've been furloughed, potentially lost their jobs, gone through a bit of hardship through all this shitty year that has been 2020. Yeah. That's a big paycheck at the end of it if you don't have to fork out for it.
Money that you just... Well, I mean, it depends on how much money you earn, but that's not the sort of money like I could just on a whim buy. I'm probably not getting PlayStation 5 on launch because I need to save up for it, and I've just bought an expensive PC, so I kind of want to pay that off a bit.
Yeah. And everybody's different.
Yeah.
But the big message we're trying to get out to everyone, to our audience, to our listeners, to maybe a few Stadia players who are a bit jaded after the Connect, and obviously a lot of people on Twitter and stuff were rating it. Don't get me wrong, it was okay. It wasn't a great Connect. There was no out and out hitters. There was nothing overly exciting. For me, I think you feel the same, Richie. It was passable. It was a showcase of titles.
All went 6 out of 10.
Yeah, 6 out of 10 was our score because there was nothing. It didn't bring anything special in our opinions. However, just take a step back. I'm going to be playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla this year. I'm going to be playing Watch Dogs. I'm going to be playing FIFA with Richie on Stadia this year.
I think I've seen comments as well on Facebook groups and on Twitter if this was at E3 they would have booed off stage, and I'm thinking, well, yeah, they probably would have done, but I don't think they would have done it this way for E3. I think the last 2 Connects would have been one single thing.
Yeah, probably.
Probably with some other stuff.
Yeah, and again, we don't know when the next one is, but just don't let it work you up. Really, it's at the end of the day, games are for fun. Don't overcommit. You don't have to be a fanboy or a fangirl. Just enjoy it all.
I think for me, there's too often I see people having binary reactions to things like either something is amazing or something is terrible. Actually, most things are usually kind of okay.
Yeah.
Middle of the road sort of thing. And it's there's nothing wrong with being critical of Stadia, but for a lot of the chatter I've seen things in social media this week is being so angry about it.
That's just. Have you ever seen the internet before, Richie? That's what happens.
I reject that. I reject that comment outright because people are people.
People, so not the internet. You just think they've got a voice now.
The internet is made up of people.
That's very true, and a lot of bots.
Yeah, I always say I wouldn't say anything on the internet that I wouldn't say in person to someone. So if you're sat there caps locks with 8 exclamation marks screaming, would you be doing that if you're having a conversation with one of your mates?
I mean, some people do, but no, not in general. But Michael writes in to our to the show, just like you can over on patreon.com/Sounds of Stadia. He says, "Hey guys, what did you think of the Connect? I'm not gonna lie, I was bloody excited. I never look forward to these sorts of events, but I really was. I was excited alongside you lot, and I can honestly say I was disappointed. I would have killed for some more games. Don't do that, it's illegal. Especially with what's around the corner, with the pre-ordering of the new consoles. I even resubscribed again at the beginning to Pro this month, thinking fingers crossed, but I just left with a bit of a, it wasn't that bad, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. What do you guys think?" So we've touched on what Michael's asked a little bit there.
I think that is the exact response. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good.
Yeah, middle of the road. It was passable.
And Michael, Orcs Must Die is an awesome game. You've got that for free, so you might as well play it for a month.
That is true. You've got your sub, Michael, so definitely jump into Orcs Must Die 3. But he's got a point, and I think he definitely summarised it there. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. Just like most things in life, they're passable. You've got to enjoy them when you can.
A 6 out of 10 can seem very disappointing when you're expecting it to be a 9.
Yeah. Agreed. But Richie, that brings us to a wrap on our Connect discussion, our Connect breakdown, our Connect theories. We are probably going to get another one by the end of the year. Maybe we'll temper our expectations a little bit next time, or our predictions. I don't want to though. That's the fun with predictions. You always think big on them. Go big or go home.
It's a bit of fun. We've both some of my predictions have been outright openly, this is a ridiculous prediction, but hey, why not? Why not? It's
what we want to see, right? It's just because we want to vocalise it and say, I would love to see this game on here, within the realms of possibility, with our Dark Souls, Square Enix links, Ubisoft, Activision. All of our predictions had some theory behind them. We weren't just plucking them out of the air. Well, you might have been with your lack of approach, but you get where we're going. Again, still 9 months old. I think I said in one of our post shows, if you were a child at 9 months old, you couldn't do jack shit at this point. So just because Stadia's 9 months old, it's not going to be competing with the likes of Nintendo and Sony and Xbox just yet. But watch this space.
And even Microsoft, when Microsoft entered the console space, had decades of gaming knowledge.
PC and such,
PC space. They already had titles and first-party studios and stuff established. So I think what Stadia are doing is something completely unique.
Yeah.
It's like, I think the last company to really do this successfully was probably Sony.
Launch
a platform without any real experience or real being involved in the
it's hard to say now because the world's such a different place now than it was then. Like I said, there's so much focus on anything that happens now, whereas opposed to back in 1994, 95, if you didn't buy the gaming monthly magazine, it wasn't really going to be in the news or in the local, like you never really heard or spoke about outside of those people who were so tuned in. Whereas now everything is just shared, it's spread, it's people make videos, opinions are out there. Like I said,
PlayStation was kind of one of the reasons PlayStation 1 was so successful is because you could mod it very easily to basically bypass piracy filters. And so you could get your console chipped and buy games copied onto a CD by some guy.
Yeah, well, just look at PlayStation 2, DVD player, PlayStation 3, Blu-ray player. Like, there's all separate caveats to that. And again, Stadia has to focus in on the cloud. Speaking of the cloud, though, Xbox came out this week, or Microsoft's Phil Spencer came out, and he's declared that this war. Game Pass Ultimate is now going to include xCloud at no additional cost. So essentially, the Xbox Microsoft version of Stadia, if you've not heard about xCloud yet, it's essentially what it is going to be included with the price of Game Pass Ultimate. Yeah. What are your thoughts on this one, Richie? Quite an interesting bundle from Microsoft.
Amazing move by Microsoft. Like, here's a load of games that you can now play on the cloud as well. Like, that's fantastic. Like, if anything is going to harm Stadia more than this, I'd be surprised. This is a huge move by Microsoft. Yeah. I've got nothing bad to say about it. Really, it's a fantastic move.
Yeah, I as someone who has the Game Pass Ultimate for the PC, I've said a few times on the show, I can play the Xbox exclusives on PC, so they're not really exclusives, but still, the fact that now I have, in theory, xCloud as well, I can just play these games on the fly on my phone. Obviously, they've not gone into the detail about what devices it's on yet. Obviously, it is still in beta. We discussed earlier in the show about how well they've done by titling it with the in beta. I think it's amazing value for money. Like, anyone who's been keeping an eye on Xbox this generation, they've essentially been retooling themselves up for the consumer. Backwards compatibility, forwards compatibility, the best place to play, their catalogue of games, the free stuff they give out, first party exclusives day and date on Game Pass. They're doing some amazing moves, and then bundling this in is even better.
This is the first time I've ever really been excited by Xbox. I've always leaned more to the Sony side, but they've also been buying a lot of new studios as well, because that's the major criticism of Microsoft right now is it doesn't have that many first-party exclusives compared to like Sony. Sony have got most of the biggest games, in my opinion, are the most like some of my favourite games of all time have come to the PS4 exclusively. So Microsoft was never really on the cards when it was like that Xbox One versus PS4 conversation, but now it really is. It's with things like xCloud. Imagine what you're playing in like a new Obsidian game on your console. Then you go away for the weekend, or like you where occasionally you work away, and you can just play it through the cloud and just ideally pick up from where you left off. Yeah.
You've got the library, and this is where we talk about like why a library of first party is really, really important. You mentioned there, if I think about my favourite games of the past several years as well, PlayStation absolutely hitting home runs at the park. You've got God of War, phenomenal game. Spider-Man, phenomenal game. The Last of Us Part 1 and 2, phenomenal games. The Uncharted series, Horizon Zero Dawn, like these are some big titles. Even with like the ones that necessarily aren't hitting the 9s and 10s, even the lesser ones, I had an absolute blast with Days Gone. Ghost of Tsushima, I haven't put a final review verdict on it yet, but I'm having an absolute blast with that one. These are some big titles.
9, of course, right now.
That you can only play on PlayStation. Xbox doesn't really have that, like, in my opinion, for me. Yes, they've got the Halo, yes, they've got the Gears, but outside of that, Crackdown 3, Sea of Thieves, didn't really do much. State of Decay, okay. And then you could even argue Nintendo Switch. Like, if you're not a fan of Mario and Zelda, they've got Pokemon, I suppose, but again, this is where, like,
Mario, Zelda, and Pokemon. That's pretty.
I mean, yeah, it's 3. Don't get me wrong, it's 3 amazing IP. But in terms of the turnaround time, all these libraries, the point I'm trying to get at is they're all fleshed out by third-party support, and Stadia now has that in abundance. But in terms of Xbox bundling it with Game Pass, this is what leads me to think. Back to my topic I've mentioned a couple of times is, Richie, do you think Stadia might ever switch over to this subscription model? Like, at what point do they have to sit back? And I know you and Tom discussed it in our private chat.
Yeah.
You get so many free games for Pro at this point.
I'd almost think they might go almost a hybrid model.
Right.
Where, this is what I said in the chat, where almost like the AAA games you have to buy, but a lot of the smaller titles you get as part of your subscription.
But do you think they need to come out and message that? Because I think Xbox bundling this in with Game Pass, it almost like forces the industry to reassess. I think PlayStation have to now react to that and come out with some, like, I think they're going to pair PlayStation Plus with PlayStation Now in some way, shape or form for the launch of the PS5.
We need to improve PS Now.
Because PS Now just it's shit
There's
in
things
comparison.
in PS Now. When I tried out PS Now, because I actually played Persona 5 through on PS Now.
Mm-hmm.
You can download the game from PS Now.
Yeah.
But it's a different instance than if you play in the cloud.
Yeah.
So you can't use your same save file across both versions.
Which is just frustrating as hell, because you're in the same ecosystem, technically.
Yeah.
But I do think this is a big move. It's a big consumer-friendly move. It's a big threat to Stadia, because, like we said, Xbox bring a library of legacy with them. Whether you're a Halo or Gears fan or other IP aside, they do have a lot of wealth and experience in the industry. Even if it just means like other titles that you wouldn't maybe think of, like the PC titles.
Age of Empires.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going towards. Yeah, Age of Empires on the cloud on your phone. Go
bring
figure.
back Age of Empires.
Bring back Age of Mythology while you're at it as well.
Yeah,
that was a very overlooked game.
Awesome.
But I think that's a big move. It's going to force the competition to definitely, if they've not already, reassess and rethink. Because PlayStation have to do something with their cloud service. Amazon still, Project Tempo, remember that? What's just gone back into beta? Was it the Crucible game? It came out and then it's gone back into beta now because it had that bad of a launch. Obviously they've got another game in the works as well, which we discussed on the show before. But that's Amazon essentially trying to figure stuff out too. So stuff to be said, stuff to be had. Who knows?
It'll be interesting to see what Amazon come up with.
Yeah, but again, it's all stuff to just not get too carried away with. Let's just enjoy the games and play them as and when they come out. Couple of final points then we'll just touch on before we wrap up for this week's Tomless show. That's Tomless. That's right. That's what we're going to start referring to now. It's Tomless. Yeah. We got Shadow dropped after the Connect. Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris. Out of nowhere. Why wasn't this just part of the Connect, Richie? It came out the day after at what, £7.50 as a pro discount deal.
The thing is, you put a splash screen and go out tomorrow, done.
Yeah, like
you don't even need to spend any time on it.
Yeah, I could edit that in easily into the Connect. Give me the footage. I'll just cut a slice out and we'll drop in. Maybe it's just after the Hitman, seeing as though we're talking about like Square Enix and stuff. It's one of their games. Oh, and by the way, available now, Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris.
Yeah.
Well, it's out there. It's on a pro discount. Grab it while you can. It's at £7.50 UK. Do you think you'll be picking this one up, Richie? Or does it not do anything for you?
Not doing anything for me.
Not
really.
doing anything for you. Oh dear. And we
All
also.
the things I'd rather be playing right now. So.
Yeah. I, like you, are probably just going to go straight away after this and play Ghost of Tsushima because it's amazing. Yeah, definitely. Rock of Ages 3 also got a date coming August 14th. As a free pro game, so there's one of our August pro games. So we've got September's Hitman, August is Rock of Ages. What else was there? I feel like there was another game.
I don't know. I'm drawing a blank right now.
I feel like they've announced them. Either way, we'll find out. So it's the 19th of July at the time of recording, so we're probably going to find out the rest of our August games imminently. It's interesting that the Rock of Ages comes out in the middle of August, so it won't be one of our pro games until midway through the month, which makes me think we're going to get 2 other titles for the beginning.
I don't know. I mean, initially I thought the pro games was going to be like PS Plus, where you get 1 month to claim your titles and then they're gone. But it seems to be not like
they just linger.
They just stay on the server. Some of them drop off, but if you've already claimed it, you keep it.
You get it, yeah.
So it is almost like that move towards a more Netflix-style library.
Yeah, which is what I think they're doing. I mean, at the start of the Connect, they showcased all the splash screen of how many games you can claim right now, and it was was it 22 games or something still available to claim as pro? So if you're somehow an hour or so into this episode and you've not got Stadia, looked into getting Stadia right now, go sign up, because you can claim essentially 20 plus games for free. Well, not for free, you're paying for your pro subscription, but you're getting more and more games to claim.
You get one month free.
Yeah. Well, yeah, true, yeah, you do get that free.
You can literally just get them for free.
Which is crazy, but all in all, a busy week of games on Stadia. You cannot deny that. It's been full of games, from the big AAA titles, from the Ubisoft announcements, to all the games we got announced at the Connect. More importantly, it is Stadia on track for the 120 games this year. And just to rattle off a few things that still don't have release dates that we think are coming. I know our friend Brian over at Club Stadia, he posted something on Twitter this week just to showcase. He's basically got his own Google Doc going of all the games to try and add up to the 120. And so far, with the games we know about now that have dates, we're up to 78 games. And then if we look at the games that don't have release dates, we've also got Apex Legends, unconfirmed, which we thought was a shoo-in for this Connect. Didn't see it whatsoever. You've got Doom 2016, Richie. Still nowhere to be seen. Funnily enough, I did see someone mention on the internet this week that it's also gone from the Stadia website. So you know when you go on to Stadia.com and there's that picture, the kind of the tiles of games that are coming? Doom 2016 has gone from that now.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's interesting, right? Because we thought it would be out as a pro game before Doom Eternal, but either way. We've also obviously got Gods and Monsters, which we don't know what Ubisoft are doing with that. They neglected to show us anything at the Ubisoft Forward event, even though it was leaked on Stadia 2 weeks prior as Orpheus. Go figure with that one. Rainbow Six Quarantine was one of my predictions that it would get a rename at the event. They didn't even get a mention, even though it's supposed to be out this year. So Quarantine is another thing that we probably will expect to see. Rainbow Six Siege, you've alluded to, Richie, but again, no date on that. Windjammers 2, which has just gone totally silent. We've not heard a peep from Windjammers 2.
Like a month or two ago that I can't remember if we actually covered it. There was like a mention of it somewhere obscure. Just
a passing mention of it all.
Yeah.
And obviously we've still got like Baldur's Gate 3, Windbound, and a bunch of other games. The reality is Brian's list, amazingly compiled. We're looking at about 84 games that we know about, give or take, confirmed, not confirmed, leaks, theorised, stuff like that. So we're not that far off our 120 games coming to Stadia.
No, we're not.
Which is good to see. And obviously we're still only in July, so there is still a long time to go until we wrap up the shit show that has been 2020. And I'm sure that all the problems that are going on in the world have had an effect on Stadia in itself as well. But all in all, I think what we want to say is enjoy the games. What was your quote, Richie? What did you say?
The best place to play games is the place where you're having the most fun.
Is that from you, or have you stole that from somebody?
Possibly. If I have, I don't know who it was or why, but I think it rings true.
It does. It really does. And we should put that...
Have fun with it.
Yeah, you've got like games of having fun as well. So games of having fun, podcasts for having fun. So we really do hope you enjoyed this special episode with myself, Chris, my lovely co-host down there, Richie. Obviously, Tom will be back with us imminently. It's Tomless this week, but he will be back. He's just like we said a few times before. He's in the middle of a house move. If you've moved house before, it's one of the most pain in the ass things you can do. boxes, stuff everywhere. Your stuff's not your own. It's all spread out. You don't know where your toothbrush is. It's all that kind of shit. It gets annoying. But either way, he'll be back with us soon. Do not you fret. He might even be wearing a lovely waistcoat and a tie for his return. We'll do like a big grand celebration. But thanks for tuning in.
I expect a full tuxedo.
Full tuxedo next time. But thank you very much for tuning in to episode 43 of the Sounds of Stadia podcast. We hope you have had a great week. Go enjoy some games. Just do that. I order you. Go enjoy some games. Whatever platform you want to play on, just take some time, chill out, have fun. See you all next week. My name's been Chris.
I've been Richie.
Oh, Tom's not here. Sorry, forgot that part. We've been Sounds of Stadia, everybody. Have a great week. Take care. Goodbye.